Hi there, thanks for joining me today. I hope you'll stick around with me today and paint these geraniums in a weathered crate. Today I'm using my Mei Liang watercolor palette, my size 6 Intuition flat and round brushes, and today I'm painting on my 300 GSM watercolor paper by B Paper Company. Let's get started. Today I want to start with a weathered crate, and I'm starting with my Payne's Gray, and I'm just going to paint three or four, we'll see, quick strokes, just a tiny bit of space in between them. Have a little fiber right there, so I'll see if I can swoosh that out. And I think I'll drop just a little more of this pigment in here on the left side, just while this is still wet, and a little bit down here. Okay. And this round brush is dry. I think I'll just wet it and wipe off all of that water and see if I can get this fiber out without just completely messing that up. Okay. And it's kind of filling back in, so I'm not going to worry about it. And in fact, I think what I'll do is wet my brush again. I'm going to drag all of that water back off of it and just give these a quick little swipe across to the darker side so that some of that will kind of bleed together a bit better. And then we'll see what this does. You can always you can always run your brush over it a bit more if you want it smoother. Just kind of smoothing out those weirdnesses in the pigment. Maybe one more, just trying to get all the way from the end. I'm not too worried about that little bit of, not lining up, those strokes not lining up perfectly. Okay, I like that much better. Just give that a good rinse so my Payne's Gray is not sitting there drying into the brush. And I'm setting that brush aside, and I want to start with my florals. I'd like to do some geraniums in this, and I think I will use Scarlet. It's a nice red. Just get a bit of that prepped and on my palette. Okay, and what I like to do for the geraniums, I like to have an idea of where I want these, and I always like to have one kind of hanging out down here or kind of going out the side. And so I just want to use some, it's a good amount of pigment. This is a very, it's a heavy amount of pigment on just the tip of my brush. And I'm just dotting. And I'm not going for any kind of pattern at all. And then I just want to somewhat rinse and wet my brush. I don't care if there's a little bit of residue, but I don't want a lot. And then I'm just going to start, give that a little more of a rinse. That was more than I wanted. Just going to start dotting in just some water. And I like to dot some of it off, kind of near where I'm going to touch the pigment. But I like to dot some of it off first. And then I don't mind if some of the pigment kind of bleeds into two of the dots of water or anything like that. I just want to soften some of that pigment. So I'm kind of touching outside of here, and then I'm touching the pigment. And I'm trying to only barely touch the pigment. So I don't want to completely eradicate it into the bleed, if that makes sense. Okay, now for some more pigment, just load that up. Okay, and I just try to avoid being a little too patterned about where I put the geraniums. I try. It can be kind of difficult, and because you know, our brains, like it or not, they kind of want things to kind of look predictable, maybe, or my brain kind of does. Okay, these are a lot, and I don't want everything drying over there, so I'm giving that a rinse, then going in with my water, just trying to work kind of quickly before these start drying. I really did put in more pigment than I like to start with, because I do notice sometimes they'll just dry, and then I can't really, you can soften them, but obviously if you soften some while they're very wet and then some when they're very dry, they're going to have a different look. So far I love it, and they're so fun. Oh my gosh, these are just always fun. And so, you know, if you see that I'm kind of touching in random little strokes, just random little dots of water, and you know, I'm not trying for individual little flowers there that you can, you know, tell they're flowers. They're not botanically necessarily accurate. I'm just going for the idea of geraniums, and going back to where I think I can maybe, you know, add a little here and there, maybe another layer of softness. Okay, how about one up here? Kind of turning my brush every now and then, so I'm just not making the same pattern. These are so fun. Just light little touches. Okay. I think I'll use this Hawker's Green Light. Just see what I think about it. I generally go for my olive green, but I'm actually going to blend this with this deep Hawker's Green and see. Okay, and how I like to do these leaves, and I want to start with the leaves, but I just like to kind of squiggle. I'm using the tip of my brush and the sides, and I'm just squiggling these scallopy, kind of messy leaves. And I'm leaving them kind of open here and there because I'm going to put some yellow into that. and I want it to blend. I just want it to kind of bleed together. Okay, I want to start with that because I do want this to blend. So I'm taking my cadmium yellow and a good amount of it, but also a good amount of water. And then just the oldest ones first, and I just love how that wants to bleed right into that green. And the water just kind of pushes at that green pigment, which I think is so fun. And just, you know, wherever you feel like a stem with a leaf or something like that. I think this needs a bit more pigment in there. So I'm just dropping that in. Okay. Let's get some yellow in those. Almost forgot that one up at the top up there. Okay, now when I did this one, I noticed pretty soon afterward that I had just really loosened some of the pigment a bit too much. I lost some of the darker effects in there, and that's easy. If you catch it when it's still slightly wet, but not too, you can drop that pigment in then. But if you know, if you do it when it's still too wet, it's just going to bleed out just like the others did, and you know, the first time. So just kind of keeping an eye on that. If you get to where, you know, you've done that and it did dry, it's so easy to just go back and put some of that pigment in, and you can do it, you know, you can do it and soften it. You can do it and leave it. I put that in, and I kind of think it works better than having any softening, you know, the way it is. So I may just leave it like that. I could go and soften it, but I'm pretty happy with it. A few little petals out here. Okay. just get some stems in here. I think this needs a bit more of that green. Okay, and then I'm keeping an eye on what I have that has dried enough, you know, to put these stems in, and I want to make sure that I put some little the little stems in between each of the flowers as well, and so I just want to be sure not to work in any of these while they're still wet, but I'm just going to add some little connecting stems out in here. And sometimes I make just, you know, it's one little stem, and then sometimes I make a little V to connect two of these little flowers. I love that part. I love how it just starts coming together then. And I don't try to get every petal or little cluster of petals connected. I don't think it needs it. Just enough, you know. Okay, I'm happy with that. I think I'll go in with a bit of this Hooker's Green Light and just make some little details on these leaves, just some little veins. I have this little dot of water that I did not want to, I didn't want it to just plop into my painting, into my flowers. And okay, and maybe one more thing, just kind of some extra depth, and I don't want to eradicate that yellow in there, but I just want to kind of add a bit more of the deeper green into some portions of these leaves. See, I like what that added. That was just a real simple little addition, and I think it was just such a good move. Maybe a little more yellow in this right here. And look at me leaving that one geranium out in the top right. Not on purpose, but I knew it still had some areas that were kind of wet, and I just did not want to end up with my green little stem things muddying that all up. So there's that. I just love that with the Payne's Gray crate there. That's cute. So how about we get some other stuff in here, some other leaves. And this is where I'd like to take my olive green And, you know, about a medium wash of that. Not too light, not too dark. And let's see. And just, you know, create some leaves kind of coming out of this planter. And I like to be sure I overlap some of this and then kind of drag that back. Let's see. How about we have one coming up over here and then can just kind of, whoop, kind of lost some of the shape of that. That's okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I like it so far. How about something kind of going back there? I did not want to be on my flower pot there, my crate. And, you know, it's not the end of the world, but I'm going to try to just kind of blend that out. Yeah, not too bad. And I don't think that that is an issue at all. That little bit of green in that, you know, you're going to have some, it's a weathered crate. it's going to be a bit discolored and totally fine. Okay, just, you know, just filling some leaves in here. And trying to be sure that I have some of the same values for some of these leaves. So these dark leaves and then some lighter ones. So let's kind of darken this one, I think. Maybe a touch too dark. Okay. All right, now for just some lighter values for those. Do not have to make these complete back there. Just some things that are kind of behind, and they don't have to be completely shaped, etc. I don't love this. I'm just going to blur it a little and then dab it. Yeah. I like to think that, you know, some of this stuff does not matter as much as sometimes we try to make it matter. And just some little vines and whatnot. My goodness, I love this. It's so sweet. Okay, and a few little stems. Not on everything, just where it seems to need it. And I tend to think the messier these leaves are, the better. But that's just me, possibly. Okay, and I'm just going to rinse that a little, get that a bit brushed off, and then add some very light veins into these. Just some of them, and very light, just not stressing about it at all. Well, I am going to add a shadow to this, and then I'm inclined to say it's pretty much done. May add a few more of these little tendrils. And I think I'll do my shadow with coal black. It's sometimes hard to choose when I'm using Payne's Gray, but I think that's what I'll do. And my water is a little muddy, but I think I will start with just by painting water here first. I want my shadow kind of going to the left. And so I want a really light-ish wash of this. And I'm just taking that, this is coal black, but it's a very light wash of it, right up into that paint, right up into that water. And then I'm taking my rinsed brush and I've dabbed it just a little because I just don't want to introduce too much water into this. I know it's going to push the pigment, and it is, but we're just going to see what we can make happen here and go all the way up into that for blending. Okay, a couple of little details. Want some little nail holes here, or nails, or something. And you could do lines, you could make some wood grain on this crate. I am just not very good at that. I never like it when I do that, so I don't. But please feel free. And then one last little, and this is, you know, just up to you, but I like to kind of fill this little space with a little bit of gray, something to kind of make a little shadow, or, you know, vegetation or soil in there. I don't always do that, but sometimes I do. I have left plenty of them unshaded. And I think I prefer the shaded. And I love that. I am tempted to put one more of these little tendrils up there, but I'm worried that I will think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. It was too much. So I'm going to wait on that. And if I decide to do it later, maybe I'll update and let you know. But as it is, I'm just going to leave it. I'm super happy with this, and I enjoyed so much painting with you today. I hope that you have enjoyed this too, and that you'll try it, or that you'll let me know some other wonderful thing that you were inspired to paint. I always love reading your comments. I love it when you reach out and share your work with me on my Instagram, petite_mesquite_studio. And as always, happy painting.